Welcome to the Fashion Icon. Get ready to be inspired, and you're going to learn all about fashion. So stay tuned. Well, welcome back to the Fashion Icon once again, bringing you the latest trends and tips in modeling, pageantry, and all it's about beauty. And today, talk about beauty. We have an interesting model, kind of like actress as a young girl, Janelle Cotto. And no, she's not Italian. If you look at her, she's a little bit of Cherokee Indian. So, Janelle, welcome to the Fashion Icon. Tell me a little bit about that. We were talking off camera about your heritage and all that stuff. Where does that Cherokee Indian come from?
So it comes from my meemaw. My uncle has told me it's like a mix of like Littlefoot and Cherokee.
Okay.
So we had like our cousins and stuff. They went and gotten blood tested and stuff like that. So my nana keeps telling me I need to go do it. So I'm pretty convinced to go do it. It's just gosh, it's a lot of money to go do that. But that's where it came from, and it's funny because my mom is a redhead and she's really really white. So I am the only sibling that has the dark features and really, really pulled that because if you look at my sister, you wouldn't even think we're sisters. She's like strawberry blonde, blue eyes, white with freckles all over, and I'm like dark, but I get that from my dad. So I pulled more of my dad's side than I did my mom's side in that aspect.
Yeah, but I also have heard that, even sometimes it even skips a generation, even though it's still in your genes. Like in my case, I was quite surprised when I did my DNA test that it's I'm like 17%, all Native American Indian. And I'm like, where did that come from? And then I started reading about the history of how, all that, the actual first settlers into the United States, they actually crossed, according to history, across Alaska and came on down, and they kept on going down to South America. They crossed into the Caribbean, and here we are. But anyhow, you are back in the saddle, as you were saying, into modeling, and I see you that you've blossomed, that you're happy. I see you more empowered. Tell me about your journey. How did you start into modeling?
Okay, so I was like 16 years old, and what happened was we were actually on the beach. Now, like when kids wanna get together and have, like, a little photo shoot, we take our little ratchet phones and we're, like, taking pictures of ourselves. So, Lord, I had to go back to Facebook and delete all those later on in life, but that was us modeling back then on the beach and stuff. Well, then we ended up running into this photographer, and he does, like, all kinds of stuff, but he was mainly a sports photographer. So he liked to do all the action shots. So we were all out there playing volleyball, and he was like, "Well, I need like, parent consent and stuff like that." Well, my mom was down there, so we talked to her about it and she was like, "Yeah, that's fine. Like I'll sit here and watch and everything." So he had her information and we just literally played volleyball, and that's kind of how it started like kind of professional photos versus our little phones that we were taking pictures of. And then it just kind of bloomed into like I'm not an introvert. Like, I will talk to random people all day long, like, it does not bother me at all, so then it just became, like, networking, and the more I networked, it just kinda I started building this portfolio, and I'm kind of like a diverse portfolio. I don't like shooting the same things that everybody else shoots. I'm like, I just think in my head or I see one little idea and I'm like, "Okay, how can we stretch this?" And I'll go and look up, what I'm thinking in my head, and if I see no photos of what I want, I get excited because that means, it's not been shot or at least it's not shot and posted about. So then I just like I have creatives like photographers that I've built relationships with over the years where they'll bring their 2 cents in on like what we could do with it and then we just shoot it from there. Like we did a glitter shoot out on the beach like where our whole body was covered in glitter. And it's just like just different ideas, just making it something like
And I do remember that glitter shop because actually that's the first time that kind of like my eyes caught you and it's like, this is interesting. It's something that I would do and it's not done often and all. So it's like I said, wow, I like that. And then that's kind of like I said, I'm going to follow this girl, see what she's up to. And I started reading a little bit about your history. So did you have any formal modeling education?
No, I didn't. So, I mean, like, I did pageants growing up. My Nana Wanda, she's like a designer. She does a lot of people stuff growing up, and so that's kind of what introduced me to like wanting to be a model is, you go on stage and you do these little performances and stuff like that, and you get to change outfits, you get to change your little character, and and you go put on a show for everybody. And I guess that's where it kind of started for me was actually the pageants as a kid But then as I grew up, I really didn't wanna do pageants anymore, and it just kinda rolled into the modeling, and then after so many, like, connections, they were like, "Well, why don't you get with an agency?" And I'm like, "I don't even know how to do that. I'm just here for fun." Like, I didn't know if I could really get paid for it. So then I started, like, meeting some boutique agencies and doing, like, little interviews. Well, because I wanted to do acting too, they made me, like, do my monologue and stuff, and I'm like a very big person on like praying and manifesting. So I'd like write all my goals down and how would I get there. And this one agency I really wanted to get with, Stellar Talent Agency out of Tampa. I went in with them. They're a all female agency, and I didn't know that at the time, but it was just two ladies, and one was the acting, one was the modeling. So I did everything I needed to do with them, and I went home and I'm like, gosh, I just really connected with them. I really loved them. So I just, like, wrote down, like, they're gonna accept me, in my little book, and I went to sleep, and the next morning, they had called me and said that they really would love to add me to their team and everything that they could do and, like, how I could start building a resume even with acting at that time. So that's kinda where it set it off to be able to actually start getting paid shoots. But to me, all of the photography and everything that I've done that I really truly loved was literally just out of networking. Just meeting new people, going to random events where I don't know anybody. "Hi, I'm Janae," and just kept on going through the whole scenario, and just over the years, it's just turned into something, like, big for
And
me.
it's funny that you say that because it's something that I'm always preaching. Networking is the number one key to success in practically in any business, but especially in modeling. I see all these girls, they going on to all these fashion shows. They go, they stay in the little niche, in their little group. They don't say hello to anybody, and they don't even go on out and see the potential people that someone in the crowd could be a business owner that could hire you to do modeling. You meet one model that has a friend that has an agency, and then you hooked up with that, and they fail at that. And you mentioned about Stellar Agency. I wonder if it's the same modeling agency acting. Actually, it was just a talent agent, not modeling agent, a talent agency that was here in Miami
Mhm.
back in the 80s and 90s. They were among the top three all down here, Stellar Agencies. They booked so many. I had the pleasure to work with some of their models and all that. And there were two ladies. I just wonder if it was the same because they are amazing. They were always booking straight up, took care of their talents and all that stuff. Stellar Agency down here in Miami left their mark. So I understand that you're also a mom. How is this modeling and mommy and
People
dealing
call
with?
me super mom, so, it actually made me feel really good. I think it was, like, a couple weekends ago, I went to Panama City to see one of my girlfriends, lifelong friends for forever, and we went out to eat, and I had both the girls, and I was, like, trying to, like, do everything at once, and then it was a hibachi place, so, like, you're at a table with a bunch of other people too, it's not just you at the table where they're cooking, and they just kept smiling and laughing at me. I was just like, I don't know what it was, and then after we go to leave, she's like, "I just don't know how you did that, like, you're a super mom." But I think it also stems from, like, growing up, it was really kinda my grandparents that raised me, and it's not really any fault of my mom's. My mom is an amazing woman, but she is a very loving and caring person, and she get caught up with the wrong people, and it really took her down a bad path, and it took her a lot to try to get herself out of that, and I really look up to her in some of those aspects, but it's like I didn't get a lot of the stuff as a kid that I really wanted to. So when I had both of my daughters, it was something that was, like, mandatory and heavily for me that I am there for them, they are always with me. I don't believe in letting grandparents raise your kids, so it's very rare that they actually watch my kids, and if they do, it's for a few hours and I'm rushing to get home because I feel like, I don't ever wanna put my kids on anybody else. So growing up with them, they're 1 and 2, it's Emery and Amira Nell, and they go with me everywhere, like, even from being first born, like, restaurants and all that, people compliment how they act in public, and it's really just because 'cause I've taken them everywhere with me, so I think they're kinda conditioned to just being used to be around everything. So, trying to make that in the mix, I have a very supportive mom, she's actually down here right now with me, so she's with the girls, and it also just stems from them also being really well behaved, so they can go. There's shoots that literally Amira has went with me, and she just sat over on the computer or was watching Bluey on YouTube, and she just kinda stayed in her own little world until she wanted something from me, and then she comes up and she's like, "Mommy, eat. I wanna eat." So, that's kind of how it's
That's
been for
cute.
me.
But, one of the things that I always say is that our children are a reflection of us parents. So if that is the case, I believe that you're doing a great job at it,
Too.
and I commend you for that. And going back to your mom, it's kind of like we all go through trials and tribulations. And as I always say, sometimes we're deep in a problem and we see the problem and we don't see the opportunity that it brings with it. I always say that, a problem, it's kind of like an opportunity for you to learn,
Yeah.
okay, from that adversity. And that adversity becomes a lesson in life for you to grow and become a better person. So, we're always learning and we're always going. So, what have been the biggest, most fulfilling modeling job that you have done?
So, the most fulfilling, it was kind of like a mix of a brand shoot and a runway. I really like just the energy of, like, being on a runway is really fun. So, I got with a runway agency, and it's EF Model Management. I'm still with them, and they do a lot of runway stuff. Well, it was me going over to Texas for a runway, but it was for, like, a bridal brand, and I don't really remember the brand, to be honest, because we did a lot of runway shows. But they did, like, a whole photography session after where we got to change into some of their other dresses that they hadn't really released yet, so it took us forever to get those pictures back, of course, 'cause we had to wait for them to issue them and all that, but to me, it was the most fun because it was just the energy, it was getting to mix, the runway with the photography because, yes, I love photography, but I honestly didn't really do much with runway, so it was kind of like a new experience for me all in one, and I just really, really, like, ran with that. I love doing that.
What type of outfits were you guys wearing in that
So, it was, like, formal, it was formal stuff. So, for me, though, I wore, like, this gold, like it was kind of like a bodysuit, but it was longer, and then it had, like, a draping and rhinestones. I'm a glitter girl. I'm surprised I don't have my glitter in my hair right now, but I love glitter stuff. That's why I did the glitter shoots and things like that. But it was literally like it was, like, draped over my legs, but it was open because it had the romper underneath, and it was just dripping and just, like, glitter, and I just loved it. Like, rhinestones stacked to the T. It just I don't know, made me feel like a little princess, so I just loved it. I loved the whole experience of both of it, and then that's when my nana was like, so this is how I met you, actually. My nana was like, "Why don't you do the runway show that they have down there?" But it's like a runway pageant. It's, Michael's thing that he throws
right,
every year.
world's perfect?
Yeah, World's Perfect, and I was like, "Oh, well, that sounds like fun," and then she was like, "Well, you also if you get to the top 15, you have to do an interview," and I'm like, me speaking? I don't know you want me to speak on anything. No, 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 no. So I got anxiety around that, and, she was like, "Well, just go experience it. It's fun for the experience." I'm like, "Okay." She's like, "They do little pajama parties and stuff like that." So I think at the time, the father of my children was there with me. This was, like, 3 years ago when we did it, and you came down, and you were, like, throwing money everywhere with your signature on it and stuff like that, and everybody was dancing. He
Yes,
kept yeah, he kept a couple of those. I think they were $2 bills,
yeah.
so he kept some of those $2 bills. I think I might even actually have one in my wallet because they say, like, $2 bills in your wallet brings you
Right,
more
right,
money and
more
stuff like
money.
that, so that's what we kept, but that's actually how I ran into you was down there, like, for the first time actually seeing you and stuff like that.
Yeah, when we do that PJ party, it's like I'm like the clown. It all started with a PJ party that it used to be a competition where every like we have people from Chicago, New York, South Florida, and
Yeah.
all that stuff, and the girls would compete. And then at the end, if there was a tie one day, and it was the New York director and my director, but my director didn't go, so I had to battle off the dancing. And then we went on that. I said, you know what? I'm just gonna blow it out. I went out and I changed $400 in $2 bills, which took me forever because the bank had to order them. I didn't know that. They took 4 days for me to get them. And then I went into a little shopping cart. I put my Cuban hat, my cigar, and I just started throwing dollar bills around. People were like freaking out over that. So I took the first place.
Yes,
Whatever it
yes.
takes. So that was kind of interesting. It's always try to make it fun for everybody in
Yeah.
the runway, make it excuse it. Our slogan is like we bring out the best in you, and that's what I try to do. Try to instill something positive in everyone
Mhm.
and empower everyone that shoots with me, because I think it's more than a photo shoot. It's just an experience, a
Yeah.
growth experience for everyone. So how do you see yourself 5 years from now as a model?
I see myself still doing a lot of the same networking and photography. I was doing music videos for a while, but I kind of stepped away from that. It's not really what I wanted. Not saying all music videos are bad. It's just the narrative of the music videos that I was involved in was not how I wanted, my kids to see me or how I wanted to be portrayed and those kind of aspects. There were lots of rappers' music videos and stuff like that. So I
Yeah,
just
not only rappers, I've seen some that are honestly, as I say, and everybody knows how outspoken it is. It's not the genre, but rather, the producers and the image that the artist wants to
yeah.
project. Sometimes, I don't agree with it. Everybody does whatever they want, but in my personal taste, it's kind of like ratchet, and it's something that you may not want to do. It's not for everyone, and everybody's got their own taste, and everyone has their own image. So it's in your case, you're thinking about the future, you're thinking about your children. So I commend you with that. So have you thought about your daughters getting into modeling?
So I have, it's kinda controversial to myself because I'm like, I want them to have that because I just me as a kid growing up in the pageant world, it brought me so much confidence within myself as a kid, and I think that's amazing for every kid to do. Even if the kids are shy, they'll grow into, having some kind of confidence by doing these pageants and stuff. So at the time, the father of my children would not allow me to put them in pageants and stuff, but now I've been kinda contemplating now that I've been separated for almost a year now, I've been contemplating on doing that for them. My nana has all these dresses that I wore when I was, 2 and 3 years old, she wants them to be in so bad. So I think I might let them do a few pageants, and I would definitely be completely open to them modeling, but I just want to be there at all times. I know certain bigger projects, even with film or modeling, they're like, oh, well, maybe no parents and stuff. I'm like, I'll sign an NDA, whatever you want, but I ain't leaving my kids there.
No, no, no.
No, but
Normally
yeah.
for children, especially under 16, a parent could be,
Mhm.
right nowadays, there's a lot of safety things in place, but I haven't seen a company that I work with that has said no parents allowed,
That's more
on
of like the film side,
well,
they kind of do that.
then they do that, and they kind of like keep the parents on off to the side, but you can still see what the children are doing and things like that. To me, it's like, I don't care, a boyfriend, a husband, if you want to come watch and whatever, because at the end of the day, it's just a little bit of, sometimes they even, sometimes they're the boyfriends or the husbands are some of the best helpers I have,
Yeah.
or even some of the moms that we have a mom, Isabella's mom that with us, that she's like a superstar. Everybody wants Jackie on set
Yeah.
because that's like a free employee because and she works hard, she knows the business, and she's a wonderful person. So, it goes in there. So, what advice would you give to a younger you, to a young girl that's starting into modeling, how to get into modeling?
Networking. It's just like to me the biggest advice is just to network, and I know that may be like hard for some people, but even just like a casual conversation. And I mean, nowadays you can just do it through DM. It doesn't even have to be in person all the time. That way you can kind of build somewhat of a relationship if you're like an introvert to be able to like, okay, I'm feel more comfortable going to shoot or do this and that. Always, bring your friends with you or a friend with you just so you have that support system. Cause sometimes when you do go to shoots, you're like, maybe I don't feel confident in myself. And then you just have somebody there that can boost you. I'll be like, hey, like, fix your hair a little bit, you know what I mean? You look fine, just to give you that extra boost. There's so many times that I've had friends come with me that didn't even shoot. Now, I literally just got my friend Ashley into doing some modeling because she's like, no makeup, nothing. She's freaking flawless. And I'm like, you need to be doing some modeling. And she's like, never. She's an introvert. She's like, I never really, once she knows people, she's an extrovert. But I was like, okay, well, let's go test it. So she has a really professional camera. Don't ask me about cameras. I don't know anything about it. I just know it's professional. So I was like, let's just go do like a test run and let's do some photography. So we went and she just like And I know you've seen it in models, like, maybe they might be tense at first, but then they start finding the flow of changing the positions and stuff, and I was just, like, screaming from behind the camera, like, hyping her up because it was like she found her moment, and she just started, like, going with it, and then I seen a man there, it was like a bar that we were shooting at, like, there's, like, a walkway with the river and everything, but I seen this man with a really, really old car. And I walked up to him, and she's like, "No, are you gonna do that?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I am." So I walked up to him, I'm like, "Hey," I was like, "Is this your car?" And he was like, "Yeah." He's like an older man, he's like, "What are you doing talking to me?" I was like, "Can we please shoot with your car?" And he was like, "Yeah, that's fine. I don't mind, just make sure if you step up" he had red velvet, green, and black inside out.
Wow.
It's a old style car. So I, like, opened the door, I had her sit in it, and he was like, "Just make sure you don't scuff the sides." I was like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah." Put her in there, and so I shot with that and I didn't even shoot with the car, I just shot her with the car, and after that, it just opened up to a whole new connection. He has over $200,000 car sitting at his house in, I think Breton is where he said, but and he has multiple different, like, old Mustangs, old Chevys, and it's just like, wow, now we have a whole arsenal of cars, you know what I mean? And that's why I think networking is so big, even if it's somebody you're kinda I mean, the worst they can do is say is no, and, maybe yell at you to get away from them, but or it could open up a door to a whole bunch of other opportunities that you could do in the future.
No, I can understand that because believe it or not, I used to be a major, massive introvert.
Mhm.
Okay,
Well,
but I learned to use that as fuel. When I got those butterflies that I didn't want to speak to people, I said, you know what? These people don't know me. So I'm just gonna show up and coming up and I'm looking sharp and I'm going there. Hey, how are you? Before they even said that, like, so they were intimidated, even though I was scared to talk to them.
Mhm.
It's like, hey, how are you? I'm Baron. What is it that you do? And I would shake my hand. I would go talking to them and I'm like talking the people wanted to like and I would just keep on like, oh, that's great. So what is it that you do? And what and I'm talking to them with their hands in there and you felt that it's like, let me go. But I made that connection. I made that
Yes.
connection. And now it's like just walk in and people think I walk on water. I don't. I'm just me. There's no I mean, they took off the filter from whatever I think. I just bring it out and I'm out there, trying to help others, trying to empower others.
Mhm.
Because when I started back in photography back in the 80s and modeling and stuff like that, there was no internet. There was no
Yeah.
YouTube. It was all straight up connections. And if you want to close a deal, make it in person. So it's something that is super, super important. I thank you for this piece of podcast that we've done today. Great to know a little more of you. Looking forward to a photo shoot with you. So you make sure that you stay fashionable, stay connected to that fashion icon